Hello and welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. This is the painting we're going to do today. This is a place called Jesmond Dene, and it's a park in Newcastle. If you're not from this country, Newcastle's the major city up here in the northeast of England. But Jesmond Dene is a big open park, and that's just one little bit of it. And I'm going to do it in watercolour. This is a painting that I did quite a few years ago, actually. Actually, I did this one for one of the Time Tease TV television programmes that I did. So it must be 20 years ago. And I'm going to start off with a very simple outline. As you can see, I've just taped at the top and the bottom. I'm going to do the drawing and then tape off the sides when I've got as much drawing in as I want. So I'm not over fiddling. By the way, one of the feedbacks from, not the last one, but the one before, this woman said, you talk too fast and you're too low with your voice. Well, here we go. Hopefully you can keep up with me now. That really hurts my voice to speak high pitched. Anyway, here we are. Very simple drawing. I said simple, but it's a little bit of a difficult bit with the bridge, but that's all. And this is a very high bridge. Around here, and with my IKEA pencil I'm pressing fairly hard so that you can see the drawing, and now that starts to come down here. Bit of an angle to it there, so I'm looking kind of like that way a little bit, and then down here. Now what I'm going to do, in the about the middle of that, up there, very faint line coming down there, look. So that now, that's where I want the top of my arch. And it comes down into the cliffs there, rocks. And again, this is getting wider now, this bit. And leave off about there. Bring that down a little bit more actually. And then that's inside the bridge, underneath the bridge. This bridge, by the way, it's a walkway. There's no vehicles on it. It's a very narrow bridge, actually. And curve around there. That'll do for that. I'm not going to draw. You can see I've got stonework and stuff like that. I'm not going to draw any of that. I shall just do that with the paintbrush. Now I've got some big trees coming back down from the top here. Squiggly line, that's my trees. Got some more here. Further away. And they start and show through the other side of the bridge as well. A bit there. Now, this is where the bridge meets the, I keep saying cliff, it's not a cliff, but it's rocks, a big rocky wall there. So does that make it a cliff then, Gail? Rocks at the base there. And more of that here as well. Then some bushy bits through the bridge. A couple of rocks here that will be in the river. And here I've got another rocky bit, big solid piece there. And that is where my waterfall goes. I'm just doing a line for the top of the waterfall there, and then there's a gap there and it comes down there. And the waterfall's in about there. And now I've got big bushy bits on this side. What I did miss out, I've got some tree trunks and stuff there. There. Big bushy bits there. I've got a couple of tree trunks coming out there as well. And I noticed that on this I've got them bare, but I'm only going to take them so far up because on this picture I'm going to put some foliage in them as well on them. Just because I can. And here, and this comes down there. Here I've got another cliff bit that comes out of the edge, out the side of the picture, with some rocks at the base of it. Another rock there. There. That will do for that. A bit of growth up there. That will do for that. All I need to do now is tape off the sides and then it's on with the paint. Okay, there we go. Picture's now taped off. I'm just ready for paint. There's not a lot of sky in this one, so I'm just going to do a quick sky wash on the top there, but I'm not going to fiddle about with it. Just a bit of colour really. Plenty of water. Make sure that you go through trees with your sky wash. That way if you leave gaps in foliage, you see sky colour through them and not just white clumps of paper. Now a bit of ultramarine blue. Whack that on. And bring that down and a little bit through the bridge there as well. Now for my sky, for my clouds, all I'm going to do, I'll just mop up there first and take out a couple of very quick and easy clouds. Don't fiddle with this. There. Wash out, squeeze out, mop up and let it dry. Easy as that. The sky is not totally dry, it's still ever so slightly damp. So for the further away trees, I'm going to drop in now and get a little bit of softness on them because it's still slightly damp. It'll bleed a little bit, ever so slightly. And what I've got to start with, the sky wash I did, by the way, I did that with my 1.5 inch brush, Aquafine. There's my 1.5. Now I've changed to my number 8 round brush. I'm just dropping in there with a little bit of yellow ochre to start with there. And some of that up here as well. See what I mean? It's just softening ever so slightly on the edges. Not too hard edged. Now I'll have a little bit of hooker's green and a lot of yellow ochre into it. Hooker's green and yellow ochre. Drop that in there as well. Don't want this too strong or too powerful. And now come down carefully to my bridge, top of the bridge. Like so. And a little bit that in here as well. Carefully to the bottom of the bridge. Now just let that spread into the yellow there. all of this, just remember, don't have it too strong, too powerful. This is further away. And just for a little bit of warmth in that, touch of light red, just a tiny touch, look there. And plenty of water into it. There. Don't want much. Just a few dabs. Dabs, that's the other technical term. And finally, a little bit of blue, ultramarine blue. Of course, that's the blue of my sky. With that there. A bit down here. Then take it slightly heavier on the blue to bring that to the bottom there. And that's the background. Very easily, very simply done. Mop up that. There. Plenty of light in there now, you see. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come slightly further forward. Actually, now the sky is totally dry, I'll just show you something here. If I wanted light on these tree trunks here, which I'm not that bothered about to be honest, but if I did, all I need to do, don't panic about it, you don't have to paint around it. I'll just go to my 3/4 inch flat brush here, look, squeeze out, sharpen the edge, and just take out light. See, it starts to move straight away. And the paint is dry. Now go back in, take out again. See? Now I can have light on the edge of that tree if I wanted it. Of course I've done one, I'll do the other. There. Very, very simple. Now, as I was saying, I'm going to go back to this lot here now. And again, a little bit of yellow ochre. A little bit stronger this time, because this stuff's a little bit nearer. Yellow ochre there. Just dabbing. This lot's going to be a lot stronger here. Now, Hooker's green and yellow ochre, again. And again, a lot of yellow ochre into that, but not as much water. So the colour stays a little bit stronger there. See, a couple of tones stronger. Just dabbing. And some more of that down here. And now, have this go in front of that one. Just a bit. Carefully around the top of my bridge again. Now remember, on there I dropped in a little bit of light red. On this one, I'm going to drop in a little bit of burnt sienna. See? Again, it's a bit of warmth, but that's stronger than the light red. And finally, a touch of blue again. Plenty of water into it. But the blue, like the other colours, a bit stronger. I'm popping that in where that's going to go behind this tree here. Carefully up to the bridge. Now wash out, squeeze out. Soften that in a little bit. I want some of that down here as well. I'm not messing about with the yellow ochre this time, I'm just going straight in with the hooker's green and yellow ochre. Straight in there. Carefully around the bridge, because it's these trees behind that are shaping the bridge, and also will make it pop out. A little bit more of that. Again, a little bit of burnt sienna. And finally, a touch of blue. Especially down there. Ooh, nice and strong. Carefully up to the bridge. And again, wash out, squeeze out, soften that in a little bit. And we'll just have a little bit of yellow ochre for a bushy bit just there. And now, this is the stage where Gail's arms need a rest. I'll just test, see if that's still a little bit damp. Yes, there we go. Now, just with my fingernail I did that, just suck a bit of paint out, scrape a bit of paint out. Now, with my rigger brush, I'll have a little bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna mixed. And we'll have those tree trunks there. I'll bring that down to the right hand side of where I've just taken the light out, see? Like so. Rigger brush, lovely flicky little bounty brush, good for twigs and things. Down there. And a few bits off there. That'll do. Now what we're going to do, to the waterfall and that stuff there in the middle distance. Before I do the waterfall itself, I'm going to do that rocky bit there. And very simple, I'm using my 3/4 inch brush for this. And we'll have a little bit of yellow ochre to start with. Put some of that in there. Just bash it in. Just checking the photograph as well. Now a little bit of raw umber. Remember, raw umber is the only brown I use. So I've got a nice standalone brown with raw umber. Put a touch of blue into that. That'll give me sepia. Put a touch of burnt sienna into my sepia mix. That'll give me Van Dyke brown. Take the raw umber and burnt sienna together. I've got burnt umber. So I've got 4 different browns there from one tube. A little bit of raw umber again, this time with a touch of blue into it, you see? There. Pop that in there. For the darker side, the dark side. A few bits of that just spot on. I'm not going into detail with this rock because it's further away. Just a few little bits here and there, look. A bit darker down there. And around those rocks, which are nearer. Now, a little bit of blue. Nice and dark down there. A little bit in there. That's digital art. Now just soften that up a little bit. Clean damp brush, look, just stroke it. There. I'll leave that for a second. So now I'll come across to this bit here, which is just grassy stuff really. Sorry, grassy stuff. Bit of yellow ochre. Just bring that down there, like that. Not like that, just like that. And a little bit of hooker's green and yellow ochre. Plenty of water. And a bit of that in there as well. Basically just getting different greens going on throughout the picture. And you notice how many different greens I've got going on already. And it's all with just hooker's green. Mix everything you've got one at a time, sometimes two at a time, into the hooker's green. It'll give you lots of lovely different greens. Plenty of water, a bit more water there, and just soften it. There. A lot of people say to me, I'm really surprised how you show everything, even from the drawing. This is feedback that I get on YouTube. Well, the thing is, I show everything because I just think that you've been a bit shortchanged if you start off a painting on a video where the drawing's already done. You've missed big important chunks of the process. A little bit of blue now. Now you should see everything, everything. And if I make a total and complete mess, I'll show you. But also, I'll show you how I recover it. So you don't miss anything. In fact, one of my next books, which comes out, I think it's April of next year. The next book comes out in October of this year, which is in acrylics, System 3. But the next watercolour one's April of next year. That's about rectifying mistakes. The whole book is called Watercolour Rescue, showing you how to put things right when you've made a mess. There, I'll leave that for a sec. Now it's time for the waterfall. Now I've got a little bit of ultramarine blue here with the tiniest touch of burnt sienna in, just to knock off the bright blueness. And what I'm doing, this is for the waterfall. With my 3/4 inch brush, I'm now going to split the brush like that. Look, made a right mess of it. Not going to hurt it. These things will take any amount of abuse. And I was just thinking as well, when I said the next book's coming out next year, you don't know what year it is, do you? So it'll be 2001 when the acrylics book comes out. 2021. 2021, sorry. When the acrylics book comes out. And then 2022 when the next watercolour one comes out, the Watercolour Rescue. I say I thought about that, but actually what I mean is she who shall be obeyed, Gail, said to me when I stopped painting there for a second, people don't know what year it is. I knew that. So there, just gently stroke down. And again, a bit more of that here. You'll see it better this time because it's bigger. Look, just drag down. There, waterfall. How easy is that? Dry brush strokes. Now I'm going to darken the blue a little bit with a touch more burnt sienna into it. There, that'll do. And now just here and there, a few sharp bits coming down with the corner of the brush. Edge the top again there. Bring a bit down here. There, I'll do. the brush look. And a few touches just there. But the important thing about that is to leave plenty of white. Now, with more water into that blue and burnt sienna mix there, again, I'm just splitting the brush and stippling along the bottom. So I've got that foamy bit at the bottom of the waterfall. Foamy bit, you know what I mean. And I've painted through the rocks that are at the bottom here, but they'll be a lot stronger. So they'll emerge again in a minute. And I'm going to leave that for a second now. There. Now another comment after the last video, there's always a couple. This bloke said, that was a big sales pitch for sand. I'm surprised seeing as that's so easy to make. So easy to make. Well, crack on and make it, matey. But the bad news is for you, I'm going to use it again, so you can switch off now. So a little bit of sand for the bridge, but first I'm going to pre-wet the bridge just with water. I'm using my 3/4 inch brush again. And that. I'm not bothered about the underneath bit. All the way across there. And someone else said the other day as well, if I don't want to buy sand, can you tell me what colours I should mix to make it, please? So I just replied to him, have you asked Coca-Cola for their recipe? Now, just sand to start with. There we go. I'm just dropping that on there, like so. Like that. That's just one dip of sand. My tree's bled down there, just soak it up. There you go. Bit more of that sand there. Now while the sand is still good and wet, a little bit of yellow ochre. Plenty of water into that. A few touches there, here and there. Now a little bit of light red. Plenty of water into that. Just a few touches, don't go mad. Well, basically the sand is the base wash on that, which is carrying the colours. A little bit of raw umber, plenty of water into that. A few touches. Now a little bit of blue. Looks a mess. I know it looks a mess, but it'll be right. He said, hopefully. Now with a clean damp brush, all I'm doing, wash out, squeeze out, and just merge those colours together. So I've made a lovely light stone colour on the paper. You're never going to make that colour in your palette. Make it on the paper. And remember I was talking about how I show everything, including any messes that you make. Show you how to get out of them. This green is bleeding down because I touched it with the colour of the bridge. It's really not a problem. Don't panic about things like that. Wash out the brush, squeeze out, look, take out. There. And if it persists, just go over it again. It's really nothing to panic about. Now, that's dry enough to put any detail in. And another little thing I've just thought is I'll give you a refresher of the actual photograph. When I say I've just thought it, Gail's just said, show them the photograph again as a refresher. And actually, you'll see this looks like quite a lot of detail in there, but don't fiddle with this. I'm just going to do little bit of detail in now for stonework. And so I'm going to my round brush through the round window, and I've got a little bit of raw umber with burnt sienna mixed into it. There. So basically I've made burnt umber. Now, plenty of water into that. And with my round brush, all I'm doing is we'll have a lip at the top of the bridge there. Oops, came down a bit then. Coming all the way around the top. And if you remember, I'm just going to adjust that slightly. Just taking out a little bit of look. That's better. If you remember, I've got like fancy stonework around the arch of the bridge. Don't go into detail, start off again. It's just a stroke of the brush, look like so. Just a stroke. And more of that here. Single stroke for each stone. And you don't need to be too precise about them, because I never am. There. Now I want a few stones in the bridge. But again, don't go bonkers. You don't want to end up with a bridge with chicken pox. So basically, less is best. Interestingly there as well, I just thought, notice I'm not curving the stones around that way. It's built upwards. It's not kind of curvy stones, it won't look right. Now, a little bit of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna mixed. There. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and this is just about black. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. There. And now into that, a tiny touch of alizarin crimson. And all I'm doing with this is a dark line underneath for inside the arch. Actually, I've just thought I need my glasses for that. Excuse me, talk amongst yourselves whilst I come back bespectacled. I'm just filling in there. And of course, I've got my pencil lines to show me where I'm filling in. That's why it's very important to do a drawing. When you're doing something a bit precise, always make sure you've got your drawing right. Sorry, madam. Was I a little bit too low with my voice then? Of course, you should have switched off by now. All the way around. And this is the only bit where you need to be really fairly precise. I'm taking care. Which is a change for me, really. And it's funny how when you get your dark line underneath the arch, how it brings the bridge to life. Suddenly you've got the shape of the thing in there. Incidentally as well, have you noticed how much water, or should I say paint mix, these aquafine brushes hold? I mean, well, I think I've only dipped in twice for this, maybe 3 times. And I've got the paint fairly strong as well. So it's not as watery as normal. But they just hold so much water. And when you think this brush is about £2.50 on my website, and it gets this kind of hammer all the time. Notice I've left that little bit just there. There's a reason for that. We'll think of it in a minute. I just want to get a little bit of light sneaking in there, that corner there. So that's just water onto the paint. Got a dog hair there, that's it. Cool. I've got a bit there which I don't want, so again, just wash it out. See? Problem solved. Now, I've got more shadow to go on that bridge, on the top bit, but I want to get everything in around it first. So I'm going to do these lots of trees first. I'm starting off again with yellow ochre, but everything's a lot stronger this time, with my 3/4 inch wash brush. Starting off with a bit of yellow ochre, like so. And again, this time I'm splitting the brush, look. Now, Hooker's Green, but this time burnt sienna. If you remember, all the way through the picture this time it's been Hooker's Green and yellow ochre. Now Hooker's Green and burnt sienna, and all together darker, stronger, richer green there. Split that brush, and now that lot comes in front of everything else. Leaving bits of the yellow ochre showing through as well. Just remix that. I don't have enough. Remember, that's what lots of people tell you as well. When you're doing big bits, always make sure you mix plenty, because you'll never be able to repeat that mix. What a load of rubbish. If you run out, mix it again. And just like in everything else, now a little bit of blue as well. Ultramarine blue. There. And again, split the brush. Nice and dark there. See how those show up in front of the rest now? A lot of people have a lot of problems when you've got a painting with a lot of greens into it. Just make sure that the greens are different. You're changing the greens, but you can do it all with Hooker's Green. Leave that for a second now. A little bit of rocky stuff down here. Again, I'm starting off with a little bit of yellow ochre. Bash that on there. Bash, technical term. A few bits coming out here. Now a little bit of raw umber. Get plenty of it. Bit of that in there as well. And now a little bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna mixed. Very, very dark. There you go. And now it's time for a bit of credit card. All I'm doing, look, like it's all still good and wet. Just drag down, like so. Shape your rocky bits. At the base, got some rocks. Now, I've got wet paint at the bottom there. Don't get rid of that, don't waste it. All I'm going to do with a clean damp brush, just drag it down, look. There. That's my reflections painted in. There. Now for these bushy bits and these on this side here. Got a bit more light on this side as well. So I'm starting off again with yellow ochre. Splitting the brush again. And stippling. So I'm going to have 2 tones of green in this one as well. Bit of flicky there. Now, hooker's green and yellow ochre. And my hooker's green and a lot of yellow ochre. Split the brush. Stiffly bits again. Now, hooker's green and burnt sienna. So I've had yellow ochre, hooker's green and yellow ochre. Now, hooker's green and burnt sienna. A bit more green. That's perfect. Split the brush again. Dib-dab-dob. Now, a little bit of blue again. Ultramarine blue and burnt sienna actually, not just blue. There. Just stippling. Now finally, tiny touch of digital art. Just tapping very lightly, look. Long after I'm dead, people will find fingerprints in my paintings. There you go. Now I'm going to do these 2 tree trunks sticking up here, look. Now I'm going to put 3 colours in there. A little bit of yellow ochre. To get the light on first, on that left hand side. And remember I said I'm going to put some foliage on top of these as well, which is not on the original painting. Just make a bit of difference. Now a little bit of raw umber with a tiny touch of blue into it. To the right of where I've just put the yellow. Just draw down. Like I say, rigger brushes are such lovely little brushes. And a lot of people are scared of rigger brushes because they do flick and bounce around, but that's the whole idea of them. Get a bit of free flow to it. And especially for twigs, lovely flicky little bouncy twigs. Now, a bit of nearly black, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Bit of that. Bit of that. And of that to the extreme right hand side there. Stroking down. There we go. And finally, a little bit of foliage on top of there. And what I'm going to do for this, we'll have a little bit of hooker's green and yellow ochre again, I think, to start with. No yellow ochre just by itself. It's hooker's green and yellow ochre mixed. Well, I'm doing different stroke this time for the tree trunk, for the foliage. Stroking with the side of my 3/4 inch flat brush. Incidentally, these 3/4 inch flat brushes, you see how much I use them. And it's quite a big brush. How much are these, Gal? £5?
£3.
£3. You sure?
No, £4.50.
£4.50 these on the website. Such a versatile brush. You've seen how often I use them. Now a little bit of blue and burnt sienna mix into that. A few strokes in the middle. Tapping on with the side of the brush. Very, very simple. That'll do for him. Next is the cliffy bit, but I think Gail's arm needs a rest.
No, you're all right.
Are you all right?
All right.
Fine. Crack on. I've had the say so I'm fine. Now, a little bit of yellow ochre. Bash a bit of that in there. Bit down here as well. Bit of raw umber with a touch of blue into it. And again, stick a bit on there. And a little bit of nearly black, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna mix. I say nearly black because I'm not putting quite as much burnt sienna as I would if I wanted to make it black. And again, back in with my credit card. And some rocks at the bottom. Just like I said before over this side, don't waste that water, that mucky stuff at the bottom. Drag it downwards. There, my reflection in. Now it's some individual rocks in the water. And so again, starting off with a bit of yellow ochre there, look, like so, and there. And those are the ones I painted the waterfall through, if you remember. And we'll have another one here, shall we? Yeah. And raw umber with a touch of blue in again. I'm putting the blue into the raw umber to darken the raw umber slightly, look, making it into a sepia colour, see? And again. Quick stroke there and there. And one in there. Now, just about black, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Quick stroke there, there and there. And again in with the credit card. again, whilst those are still wet at the base, drag downward, clean damp brush hook. This will all make sense once I put the water in. A little bit of hooker's green and yellow ochre in there. That's hooker's green and yellow ochre mixed. And a little bit of raw umber and yellow ochre mixed. Put that there. Now, importantly, I need to let that look dry before I put the water on. Well, like I say, those need to be totally solidly dry before I can do the water. So while that's drying, I'll just put the final shadow on the bridge. And what I've got for this look, ultramarine blue, because that's the blue of the sky, touch of crimson, so I've made a really naff purple, and tone that back with a bit of burnt sienna. I'll do. Plenty of water into that. And what I'm doing, underneath the lip that I painted of the bridge, the line there, look, of shadow. Going all the way around. Now, a little bit more water into the brush, whilst that's still wet, soften down the baseline of the shadow line. The baseline of the shadow line, you know what I mean? All the way across. Still with the same colour. This tree here, you're going to cast shadow on the bridge like that. Nice and dark where the tree meets the bridge, tucking it in underneath there, look. A little bit of that. A little bit down here. There. But the shadow is dark, but it's got a warmth because of the crimson that's in it. I'll more or less do for the shadow, I think. Now, into the water. And what I've got here is ultramarine blue again, of course. Tiny touch of hooker's green. A tiny touch of burnt sienna. And plenty of water into the water. There. I'll start off here. I'm going through the reflections, like so. Around my rocks. And then through here. A few bits of white showing here and there. But when you paint through the reflections, don't hang around with your brush when you're doing that. Do a single stroke through the reflections. Because if you go over and over it, you'll move the reflections that you've painted in. Whereas by just stroking through once, you're just softening it slightly. A bit darker there. That's easy enough, isn't it? I think that is about that. All I need to do now is take the tape off. And there we go, finished painting. That wasn't that difficult really, was it? I mean, really with something like this, once you've got the bridge in place, the rest is easy. And once the drawing's done, that's always the difficult bit done, once the drawing's done. Because you've got all your lines in place to then just fill in. So don't be scared of something like this, but it's strong light and dark going on here. Look, very dark in here, very light on here. Good contrast going on. And the brushes I've used, my aquafine brushes as normal. 3/4 inch flat, 1.5 inch flat, number 8 round and number 4 rigger. And as you can tell, I also use these for my acrylics. Very hard wearing brushes. Lasted for years. And the colours I'm using, again, aquafine. These are only £1.80 a tube on my website. Plus, of course, the sand, which is fairly invaluable. You can use it for so many different things. In this one I use it for stonework. There's plenty of watercolour books that we've got out. That is so many people's little Bible that they keep in their box all the time, full of tips and techniques. Boats and Harbours in watercolours, the first book I ever did in watercolours. We've got quite a few watercolour books out. And the paper that I've used is the Langton Rough. We sell it in A3 and in A4. Such a lovely paper this. It's got a lovely tooth leather surface to it. Perfect for landscapes. Hopefully you've enjoyed that one. And don't forget to visit the website, charlesevans.com. If you're on Twitter, have a look, Charles Evans Art. Because all the paintings that I do on a daily basis, I'm putting them on here on Twitter, stage by stage. There's no descriptions, but it's a photograph stage by stage. If you're not on Twitter, get yourself on and follow me. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.